Hello, my kings and queens. Adrian Flyfree here. As promised, here's my video about being married. See, being married is something that you have to work hard on. So let's dig right into it, kings and queens. My number one tip that you should do in a marriage is make sure you communicate with your partner. What does that mean? Stop putting people in your business. Most times when we go through trials and we get upset and we don't understand our partner, we go talking to somebody else. And that somebody else is probably saying, oh, you need to leave him. Oh, you need to leave her. Am I right? Then what happens? You wind up staying. And when you wind up staying, now that friend or that family member can't even understand why you're still with them. But you understand why, because you love them, right? So you give them another chance. It was just a silly argument. It was just a silly mistake, or it was just a silly misunderstanding. So we need to keep people out of our business. Okay, kings and queens, zip it. If you want to talk about something that's going on in your relationship, talk to your spouse. Talk to the person that you have the issue with. Why? Because they're the only person that can solve that issue. Not a friend, not a family member. When you get married, you decided to come together as one. You decided to come together and make a family. So you have to decide to talk to each other when something is not going your way. Okay? All right. Number two. And forgot to tell you. Y'all know I keep my notebook with me everywhere, right? Okay, so number two, false expectations. False expectations on what our marriage is supposed to look like. I'm looking at him. He don't treat his wife like this. I'm looking at her. Oh, she don't treat her husband like this. When you're looking at other people, you have false expectations of what your marriage is supposed to look like. Now, don't underestimate the power of marriage. The power of marriage that you two both have together is love. That's what joins you together in the first place. However, when you start looking at other people in their marriages, let's say it's somebody on what? TV, somebody on social media, you're looking at something that is not 100% true. They're not giving you that raw detail when they're having their arguments in their bedroom and they're fighting on the phone when they get to work arguing about something from last night. They're not going to tell you that. You see none of that. When they post pictures and they post videos, guess what? You see the happy time. You will never see when they're upset and at their worst. So what does it look like? You're the one that's always at your worst. You're the one that's always having a problem. That's not true. You see you because you live with you. You don't live with these stars. You don't live with these famous people. So when you look at other people, stop having false expectations of what your husband's supposed to do. Stop having false expectations of what your wife is supposed to do. Why? Because no two households run the same. Everybody's households have their own standards for that household. And what might work for somebody else's household may not be so good for your household. You're unique. Treat each other like you're unique. That's why you married each other, right? Okay. Number three, make quality time for each other. Now, ladies, I know this one is going to sting just a tiny bit. When we have children, those children, they become our everything. Am I right? That child, you give him or her all of your loving. All the loving you was giving your husband before you had children. Now that you have that child or those children, they take up all your time. And every time it's time to spend quality time with your husband, you don't feel like it. I don't have enough energy. Why you just can't understand? You're not making your husband a priority at all. And now, fellas, don't think I'm just getting on the women now. You have a work to do as well. You can't always think because you're going to work and going home to your wife and just thinking, oh, well, she just got to have my dinner ready. And, why you didn't do this while I was at work and how long you going to be at. No. We're not in them times. You have to understand that you also have to put the work in too. Remember when you chased her? You still got to do some chasing when you get married, gentlemen. Keep that chasing going on. That's what keeps your marriage alive. That's what keeps your marriage healthy, because you still have to date each other. One thing I told my husband today was, when we gonna start dating again? Now, we make time to date. We have to start making sure, I had to definitely start making sure that I spent time with my husband. One thing about it, I know that I have a lot on my plate, and a lot of times I don't make the necessary adjustments for my husband. So I had to take a mental note to make sure that I'm spending quality time with my husband. So Mondays are date nights. Mondays is the day that we kind of put our phones on do not disturb, and we make sure that we spend time with each other. And there's 3 things that you can't talk about when you're on date night: work, children, and bills. Those 3 things will make you upset. Those 3 things is what takes you off kilt. Talk about the things you talked about before you had children. Talk about the things that you used to talk about before you started living together and had bills. Talk about what you used to talk about before you cared about work. Okay? So, number 4. Listen, this is a doozy. Know your limits. Sometimes you can take an argument too far. Know your limits. If you know that you're getting really upset, if you know that the other person is not responding to you, can make you get really upset, you got to learn how to walk away. Know your limits. Some arguments you may, disagree with what your spouse may say about something, or something they didn't do right, or something they forgot to do, and you start to get really upset. And that can lead to an argument. But what happens is, the more someone doesn't respond the way you want them to respond, the more you start getting more angrier. So you're more upset. Your blood is really rushing to listen, not to the top of your head, out your head. You have to know your limits. Sometimes you can't, fight when you're under fire. If you're under fire, if you feel that, I'm really just want to say this one last thing, that one last thing is about to blow up in your face. So know your limits. If the other person keeps saying, just leave me alone right now, just leave me alone, leave them alone, because you're going to get them to a point that they're just upset as you are. And if they become just as upset as you are, all is on. Who gonna stop y'all? Who? Is somebody gonna be there to stop y'all? No. Oh, it's doors getting slammed, all types of stuff. I did that in my 20s. I did that in my early 20s. But listen, at the end of the day, just know everything, just doesn't need your immediate attention, your immediate response. Everything can't get solved when you're angry. Sometimes things get solved just by not saying nothing. It really does. Have you ever noticed that sometimes when you're upset at your spouse and you two really have not solved the problem in your mind, you feel like you haven't solved the problem, sometimes you just let it go. Trust me, you'll have much more stuff to argue about. Okay? Like, who left the ketchup off the bottle? Who left the juice out? You'll have way more stuff to argue about. Trust me, you'll find things to argue about. Who left their shoe over here in the corner? It's always something that you're going to find that's going to make you upset. It's just we have pet peeves. That's all it is. Your pet peeve can't always institute an argument, okay? So just know your limits. Know when you need to take a break. You need to tell your spouse, hey, listen, I need a break. Just give me a second. Give me a moment. You're going to have to. And then the other spouse have to respect when you say that. We have to respect that. If my husband say, well, he usually don't say, he just don't say nothing at all. It's this saying that a happy wife is a happy life, right? But my husband usually doesn't say anything. Me, I can go on and on and on and on. But I had to learn. Stop always wanting a response when, you want it, Adrian. You don't need an immediate response for everything. Now, me, I'm a runner. I don't like to sit and talk. When he's ready to talk, a lot of times it's something that's going on. I'm ready to leave. I'm ready to walk out. Oh, in the beginning, it was hard to keep me to sit still. I was a runner. You hear me? I was the one that always wanted to get up and leave. I want to be left alone. I don't want to go out. Matter of fact, I'll go out by myself to the park and I'll sit there all day. Listen, just know your limits, and you have to respect the other person's limits, okay? So it's a twofold thing. Know your limits and respect the other person's limits, okay? So that's number 4. Number 5. Said 5, right? Forgive, forgive, forgive. You have to learn how to forgive. Your marriage is not going to be perfect. Why? Because you're not perfect. None of us are. So your marriage is not going to be without flaws, without hiccups, without hurt, without pain. Stop letting people and stop letting TV and social media tell you that you're not going to go through something, because you are. You're absolutely going to go through something. But you have to know that if you have patience and working in your marriage and you remember why you loved your partner, you're going to take a step back, breathe, and just forgive. Let it go. You need to let it go. If you learn how to forgive, the quicker you learn how to forgive, the quicker you can heal, the quicker you can get over hurt. And yeah, I know there are some things that we just say that's just unforgivable, right? Just do away with his head. There are things that are forgivable, even if you don't think that they are forgivable. None of us have a perfect life. None of us have a perfect relationship, and you're not perfect in your relationship, even when you think that you are doing everything good. Ask your spouse. They're going to tell you, no, everything's not perfect. Everything is not the way that it should be. So make sure that you forgive. That's one of the main things that we don't do really easily. We hold on to hurt. We hold on to pain because we're expecting them to hurt us again, right? That's not a way to have a healthy relationship. You cannot have a healthy marriage like that. So let's learn how to forgive each other. Okay, now this is the thing. I have a bonus for you. Here's the bonus. You want to hear it? Here it go. Your bonus is your me time. Yep, I said it. Everybody needs me time. It is so uncommon for people to hear when I say I have me time, because I have to make sure that I have quality time for myself. It's not just the men, it's the women too. Women, don't think that men should not ever just leave the house or have their time away or play video games, whatever makes float your boat. Whatever floats your boat, men. When you take time for yourself, kings and queens, you are reconnecting with who you are. Because we get lost in our relationships. We get lost in these marriages. We forget what we love to do. So when I write, when I read my book, that's me time. That's just me. Nobody comes in that time. It's me. I want to spend time with myself, and I want to connect with myself. It's nothing wrong with that, kings and queens. So if he needs to take a jog, or he needs to go for a walk, and she needs to go lock herself in a room for a minute, let him. Go ahead, come back and make sure everything is right. You know, having that me time refreshes your mind. It helps you to reconnect with who you are. And that's mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. You cannot keep being concerned about other people without connecting with who you are on the inside. So that's my bonus tip, is reconnecting, okay? So, kings and queens, remember that having a healthy relationship means taking the time to do the work. If you want a healthy relationship, you're going to have to rethink everything that you thought a marriage stood for. For all of my newlyweds, I know you're in the honeymoon phase, but guess what? When that honeymoon phase is over, you still got to work. You still got to make sure you're spending time. You still got to talk to each other, and you still got to deal with each other. Why? Because you the one said I do. Okay? So, until next time, I'm Adrian Flyfree, And I want you lovely kings and queens to have a wonderful day. Bye.